So we have 4 dogs, and the way she treats them, I feel like you're going to be the most amazing mum with our kids.
Oh, I love you.
That. Yeah.
When your pops is known as one of the most disciplined athletes to ever do it, failure doesn't land softly. It hits heavy. And that's the weight sitting on Brooklyn Beckham right now. This isn't just family tension. This is pressure, pride, and the moment where privilege runs head first into real-life consequences. The Beckham image, the one polished to perfection for years, is starting to show cracks. And even though the family isn't saying much, their silence is loud.
Yours is, you smell good. Your smile makes me very happy.
I thought that's
You're funny, very funny actually, and you're very hardworking.
Oh, I love you.
Very passionate about what you do, and I like that.
David Beckham especially knows how to speak without really speaking, and recently his quiet moves have been telling their own story. Brooklyn keeps saying he's finding his independence, trying to step into his own life. But the way David moves says something different. There's a shift, a tension, something unspoken sitting between father and son. Behind the calm smiles, you can feel the disappointment building, the type that doesn't need raised voices to hurt.
So that's what I try to teach my kids, but you have to sometimes let them make those mistakes as well.
David isn't name-calling or throwing any public shade, but when he talks about earning success, owning mistakes, and learning through effort, those words hit hard coming from someone who built everything on discipline and consistency. From him, it doesn't sound like advice. It sounds like a quiet judgment from a father who expected more. Meanwhile, Brooklyn talks about independence, but his path shows another picture. A trail of starts without finishes, dreams dropped halfway, and opportunities that came more from his last name than from personal grind.
But what I've found personally, especially with my kids as well, use it for the right reasons. Yeah. I've been able to use my platform and my following, for UNICEF. Yeah. And it's been the biggest tool to make people aware of what's going on around the world for children. And I've tried to do the same. I've tried to do the same with my children to educate them.
It feels like he's still searching for something real to stand on, while the world keeps reminding him how much of a head start he was given. That gap between how things look and how things really are has never been clearer. While Brooklyn tries to show he can stand on his own, David and Victoria have made a quiet but cold move. They stopped protecting his public image, letting people see the real cracks forming around him instead of covering them up. Their attention has shifted, and the new spotlight makes their priorities obvious. They're now standing behind the kids who keep showing growth, discipline, and real drive. Romeo Beckham is out here stepping into the fashion world with confidence, walking high-level runways like he belongs there. Cruz Beckham is pushing his music path hard, dropping songs, booking shows, and actually putting in hours to develop his craft. The family may stay silent about Brooklyn's words, but their behavior speaks louder than anything he said. Their open support for Romeo and Cruz isn't random. It's intentional. This is the same strategic mindset David uses in football, business, and family. His core belief never changes. Show up, put in the work, take the hits, finish what you start, and remember the world keeps moving whether you're ready or not. Brooklyn unfortunately built a different reputation. His first route was football, the family legacy. He had top academies, elite coaching, and every resource a young player could hope for. But after all those chances, he never went beyond the youth stage. No professional contract, no major breakthrough, nothing to keep building on. Then he jumped into photography. Massive opportunities came instantly. Big brand collaborations, a polished photo book, high-end programs, and all the support anyone could ask for. But the pattern returned. Quick hype, early praise, and then everything faded out. Projects launched strong, got attention, and then disappeared half-finished. After that came another sudden pivot into cooking. Brooklyn Beckham's rise as an online chef was everywhere for a moment. TV features, viral videos, glossy clips, the whole digital spotlight. But the question hanging in the air was simple. Would this be another fast start that ends with silence? Or the first time he actually sees something through? Brooklyn's cooking era went viral, though not always for reasons he wanted. He openly admitted he had no formal training, no culinary degree, and no real kitchen background. Yet major outlets still pushed him like he was some rising food specialist, placing him on high visibility shows and platforms. Critics gave him no mercy, pointing out every weak spot in his technique, and instead of showing growth or proving anyone wrong, Brooklyn slipped out of the spotlight and jumped to the next idea. Then came the entrepreneurship phase. Suddenly, he was releasing a hot sauce brand, teasing design work, and even hinting at opening a restaurant. Every new project was promoted as the one, the moment where he would finally lock in and commit. But each time, fans started seeing the same cycle. No steady progress, no long-term development, just another quick passion advertised as purpose. That's when the Nepo Baby label shifted from being an insult to becoming the explanation people used when nothing else made sense. It wasn't about lack of access. Brooklyn had every opening a person could hope for. He had money behind him, visibility, and a last name that guarantees a spotlight. What many critics and possibly even his own parents felt was missing was consistency. That's why David Beckham's recent interviews hit with a different tone. When he was asked about raising kids and handling mistakes, he didn't shield Brooklyn or echo any of his frustrations. He focused on discipline, accountability, and learning from your own missteps. His words were clear enough that people understood the subtext. Making mistakes is normal, but that doesn't erase the outcomes that come with them. Independence, in David's view, isn't about distance or dramatic choices. It's about proving yourself over real time. And while Brooklyn presents his separation from the family as freedom, the truth is, he still lives within the comfort built by his last name. Brooklyn Beckham has the lifestyle, no question. But when it comes to the work side, things remain unpredictable and uneven. Brooklyn's career identity is still a mystery, and that's why a quiet question hangs in the background. It's the kind of question David Beckham himself is probably asking when the cameras are off. What happens if Nicola Peltz ever walks away? Brooklyn's entire lifestyle is tied to that marriage on every level, emotionally, socially, financially, and even professionally. Nicola's family isn't just wealthy. They operate on a level where money, influence, and connections move like a machine. Their reach matches the Beckham brand in scale and power. But if that relationship ever ended, what would Brooklyn be standing on? No solid career, no independent income, nothing built entirely by him without the support of his parents or his wife. And that's the uncomfortable truth nobody close to him seems ready to say directly. People naturally compare him to his brothers, and the difference is hard to miss. Romeo Beckham picked a lane in fashion and stayed committed. He trained, took criticism, improved, and kept returning stronger each season. He built a real name for himself through effort, not shortcuts, and not by relying on anyone else's reputation. Cruz Beckham showed the same focus, but through music. Instead of jumping from idea to idea, he locked in, writing, recording, performing, touring, and slowly building a fan base on his own work. No artificial hype, no sudden exits, just consistent progress. Their paths send a message without saying a word. They show who in the family is actually walking the talk and earning their place, not just living off a legacy. Those public moments of support from their parents weren't just family pride. They were signals about what the Beckham household respects: discipline, resilience, and real effort. And Brooklyn definitely noticed. So did the internet. As his accusations about the family began spreading, the Beckhams stood united at events, fashion shows, and public appearances. While he distanced himself, they kept moving as a team, celebrating achievements built through actual work. Their silence carried a weight that no statement could match. A reminder that life keeps advancing and it rewards consistency, not complaints. David Beckham has never been about shortcuts. His whole life is built on discipline, pushing through setbacks and showing up even when it's hard. To him, success isn't an inheritance. It's something earned day by day. And that's where the painful part surfaces. Brooklyn keeps talking about wanting independence and freedom from his family's spotlight, but he hasn't built the foundation that independence requires. Here's the truth people keep avoiding. Freedom without responsibility isn't real independence. It's just a soft cushion that makes everything feel safe, even when nothing solid is being built. And maybe that's the part that really hits. This isn't just a family disagreement anymore. It's a full clash of values between a son who wants space and parents who built their lives on structure. David Beckham isn't the type to erupt or throw public shade, but he isn't backing down either. What makes this whole situation intense isn't just what Brooklyn said. It's how David and Victoria answered him by not answering at all. No emotional interviews, no public statements, no messy back and forth. They chose silence, and somehow that silence spoke louder than any response they could have given. They didn't hide or retreat. They doubled down on everything they've always lived by: loyalty, discipline, steady progress. And without naming names, they made it obvious which of their kids reflect those values. That silence people keep debating isn't accidental. It's intentional. In the Beckham household, silence is strategy. It's how they communicate when words would only create chaos. David understands media storms better than almost anyone. He has lived through decades of judgment, controversy, and public obsession. If he wanted this story to disappear, he could end it with a single quote. One calm interview and the narrative would flip. But he didn't take that route. His choice to stay quiet wasn't weakness, it was confidence. Because when Brooklyn spoke out, he didn't reveal some huge scandal. What came through was personal frustration built over years of half-finished attempts and missed chances. It wasn't about control, it was about the gap between potential and reality. Brooklyn tried to present his distance as a bold move, as if stepping back meant stepping into a new version of himself. But when you look closely, there's no clear direction behind the choice. No major career shift, no long-term commitment, no solid plan, just distance labeled as growth, emotional distance, public distance, symbolic distance. But distance by itself isn't a path. And that's where the disconnect shows. For someone like David Beckham, direction matters more than the spotlight itself. He built his entire career under nonstop scrutiny and used every tough moment to sharpen his focus. That's the kind of pressure he understands. That's the kind of pressure he respects. And that's exactly why this moment between father and son feels so heavy. That's the standard David Beckham built his whole life on. And it's the same one he expects his son to eventually rise to. No shortcuts, no excuses. He understands what it feels like to be dragged by the world and still keep going. He lived through being booed by an entire nation, ripped apart by headlines, doubted, mocked, and blamed for losses that carried the weight of national pride. And what did he do in the middle of all of that? He didn't run from it. He worked harder. He trained longer. He focused deeper. He rebuilt himself piece by piece until the same people who tore him down had no choice but to respect the comeback. That is the mentality he lives by, the one he expects to see reflected in his children. So when he watches Brooklyn jump from football to photography, from photography to cooking, and from cooking to branding without ever staying long enough to reach mastery, it doesn't just frustrate him, it hits in a more painful way. The issue was never the failures. Failure is normal. The issue was the pattern. Brooklyn quit, switched lanes, rebranded, and still expected applause for simply starting something new. That lack of endurance is what stings the most. Even the things Brooklyn still has going rely more on visibility than skill. The cooking clips go viral because of his identity, not technique. Products sell because of the Beckham name, not the craftsmanship. Appearances get booked because of connections, not because he earned every step through effort. Nepo privilege can open doors, but it doesn't guarantee those doors stay open. That's why the Nepo baby label hits so directly with him. He isn't the first child of fame to benefit from legacy, but he is becoming one of the clearest examples of what happens when privilege isn't matched with perseverance. Others in the same position, whether they act, design, create music, or build businesses, pick one lane and grind through it. They deal with the struggle quietly. They learn in public. They grow in ways people can actually see. Meanwhile, Brooklyn keeps hitting restart like the world will always catch him. And maybe it will, but only because the net under him is stronger than most people ever get. That safety net comes from the foundation his parents built, the wealth surrounding his marriage, and the comfort he has always known. It softens the blow of every setback, but it also slows the hunger that pushes people to evolve. This all circles right back to Nicola Peltz. Brooklyn has made it clear that his marriage isn't just a part of his world. It is the foundation of his entire identity right now. He credits Nicola for his calm, his confidence, and what he calls his independence. But critics and, quietly, even his own parents see a risk forming behind that dynamic. Because independence that leans completely on another person stops being independence. It becomes dependence dressed up as something stronger. If Nicola is the one providing emotional grounding, financial support, and the social shield that protects him from criticism, then people naturally start asking where Brooklyn's personal autonomy actually comes from. And what happens if that relationship faces real tension or comes to an end? That question isn't shade, it's simple logic. And that David Beckham didn't earn his freedom standing behind anyone else's shadow. He built his lane step by step through failure, sacrifice, and consistency. That's what real independence looks like in his world. He put in the hours. He took the hits. He kept showing up long enough for results to speak louder than anything he said. Romeo Beckham followed that blueprint in fashion. He didn't just take photos for a season and bounce. He walked runway after runway, city after city, proving he belonged in an industry known for eating people alive, even famous ones. Fashion doesn't give second chances out of pity. If they call you back, it's because you delivered. Then there's Cruz Beckham. He could have treated music like a hobby, something to dabble in. Instead, he treated it like work, writing, rehearsing, performing, touring, slowly building something real, something that has structure and longevity. No shortcuts, no hype tricks, just steady growth. So when David and Victoria publicly uplift Romeo and Cruz, it goes deeper than family pride. It's intentional. They're showing the world which of their children are truly earning their names, not just inheriting them. This isn't about picking favorites. It's about alignment with values they've lived by since the beginning. They stand behind the kids who show discipline, commitment, and effort. Brooklyn sees this, every bit of it. And that may be why his frustration eventually spilled into the public the way it did. When he accused his parents of shaping the family narrative and prioritizing image, he wasn't completely wrong. But he also wasn't completely right. The Beckhams have always cared about image, but not in a fake or shallow way. For them, image is rooted in performance, consistency, and results. In their world, you don't announce who you are. You prove it through your work. Brooklyn, however, wanted recognition without the completed journey to back it up. Praise without progress. Freedom without accountability. And David Beckham doesn't subscribe to that mindset. The most powerful part of the entire situation isn't in what he said. It's hidden in what he chose not to say. David didn't drag his son. He didn't dismiss his feelings. He didn't expose him or fire back. Instead, he delivered a quiet lesson in restraint, reminding people that mistakes are part of growing up. His response wasn't cold, it was perspective. He shifted the whole situation, turning Brooklyn's public frustration from a dramatic scandal into a moment of learning. He made something clear without ever saying it directly. One heated moment doesn't define who Brooklyn is, but it also doesn't erase accountability. You can't damage relationships and call it self-discovery. That isn't maturity. That's avoidance. And while Brooklyn stays silent and labels it strength, his choices tell a different story. They show someone still searching for direction, purpose, and a sense of self that stands on its own. Until he finds that, the criticism won't slow down, because the public isn't comparing him to regular people. They're comparing him to the legacy he walked into the day he was born. Brooklyn Beckham isn't being judged by the standards of the average person. He's being judged against the access, privilege, and massive head start he inherited. And right now, his output doesn't match the resources he's had. David Beckham understands that pressure better than most. He spent decades proving himself, facing critics, and working under a spotlight that never softened. He learned early that respect isn't something you receive just because of your last name. It's something you build through consistency, effort, and the ability to handle pressure without breaking. David probably hoped his oldest son would understand the lesson on his own, but instead of growing, Brooklyn pulled back. And pulling back without a solid foundation is a risky move. That's why this tension doesn't feel like simple gossip anymore. It feels like a real turning point, the moment where privilege stops being a shield, and the only thing that matters is effort. The reality is that Brooklyn can still rewrite his story. He can still focus, commit, and build something that belongs to him, not something borrowed from his family name or held up by someone else's success. But that requires humility, patience, and long stretches of quiet work. without expecting applause at every step. Until that happens, David Beckham's silence says everything. Steady, calm, and impossible to ignore. In the Beckham family, love is unconditional, but respect is something you build slowly, one effort, one lesson, and one comeback at a time. And right now, Brooklyn still has a lot to prove. So what do you think about all this? Is Brooklyn misunderstood? Or is he just not putting in the work? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, share the video. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more celebrity deep dives that keep shaking up the spotlight.